the meeting. There we go. Let's get rid of that. All right, it is 1 o'clock. Why don't we get going? People can join as they come in. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us here to learn about some best practices for content that brings in new business. Really, thanks for joining us on this frigid afternoon. It's freezing where I am. Maybe not so much where Erin is. She'll introduce herself in a little bit, but first off, my name is Keegan Gallup, and I am an account coordinator at Keystone Click. Keystone Click, if you don't know who we are as a company, we are a digital marketing agency that creates, obviously, digital strategies that are custom tailored to fulfill the unique needs of each of our clients. And we really do have a number of clients. We do B2B, we do B2C, we have large, big organizations all the way down to, mom and pop shops. We are based out of Milwaukee. That's why I am freezing today. But we have helped businesses all over the United States. So we're not just a local company. We do have a complete national reach. And it's a lot of fun. With me today, co-piloting our webinar is Erin Jordan. Erin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Jordan. I'm also an account coordinator at Keystone Click. Keegan hinted at I'm actually in Dallas right now, but it's extremely cold for us Texans, so it's below freezing, and generally that keeps everybody inside here for us. So definitely weather, wherever you are, I hope you're staying warm.
Yeah, actually, why doesn't everybody put in the chat where they are viewing from? And then also let me know what the weather's like by you, especially if you're not in Wisconsin or Milwaukee, just so I can feel a little bit jealous or potentially a little bit better about myself if it's colder where you are than where I am.
Yeah, looks like a lot of people are from Wisconsin joining us today. That's awesome. Well, yeah, definitely stay warm, guys. So really quick, we're gonna go through what we're talking about today, and then we'll get started. So our agenda, we're gonna start out with where content fits into your funnel. This is, after all, how to bring in new business. So we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your sales funnel. Then we're going to talk about defining your audience, and that sets us up to talk about types of content you should be creating and also where you should be distributing that content. We'll briefly go over the difference and kind of the advantages of organic content versus paid. Then we'll talk about what you need to do when you're finalizing your content strategy, and then it'll be Q&A time, but obviously throughout the presentation, feel free to send us your questions in the chat, and we'll be sure to answer them either in real time or at the end when we've got Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. The more questions, the better, you guys. We like to keep this pretty loose. So like Erin said, if you have any questions at all about anything, just type it in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to start things off by considering your sales funnel. So the first image I've got here is kind of your generic sales funnel top to bottom. It says tofu at the top, and I like tofu, but in this case, that means top of the funnel. And really here, you're looking at kind of guiding your prospects down through different kinds of content in order to convert them into leads and actual customers. So at the top of the funnel, really your goal here is to raise awareness, So you're making your prospects aware of the problems that they may be having and also the solution that you and your business offers. As you guide them through the middle of the funnel, this is where they're starting to evaluate your business as something that maybe they want to consider to solving their problem. And then at the bottom of the funnel, that's where those leads, those prospects turn and convert into customers. So this is one way of looking at it. If you're not familiar with the sales funnel, probably a lot of you are, but you may not be as familiar with what we call the inbound methodology. So it's just another way of thinking about the ways in which your content kind of guides people through the experience that you want them to. So there's 4 key things in the inbound methodology. There's attract, connect, close, and delight. So attract is similar to that top of the funnel that we were talking about earlier. You're meeting prospects for the first time. You're bringing them to some of your initial content pieces. And then you're transitioning into connecting with them. They're understanding a little bit more of the value that you provide. And that's kind of like your middle of the funnel. You'll go into close. That's your bottom of the funnel, similar to where you finally convert them into making a purchase decision. And where inbound methodology differs a little bit from that typical sales funnel is this delight section. So it's not just about getting the deal and closing and boom, you've got a customer. It's really important to continue to engage your audience and delight them with all that you have to offer, really showcasing the best of your brand on a continuous basis.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to keep the kind of infinity symbol in your mind as Erin was talking about that. But, you know, the delight leads into attracting more, and with your, if you do delight them, it could attract them to go with you for bigger jobs or bigger clients, you know, bigger projects. So it really is, you know, a continuous process, like Erin was saying.
Yeah.
So like Erin said, in order to create your content, you need to understand your sales funnel and kind of how that works. So another thing you need to understand is the people who exist in that funnel. These are the people that drive the content that you need to be creating. The goal of kind of defining your audience is just knowing how to speak directly to them. So what's going to resonate with your audience, those people in your sales funnel, or, you know, the people just outside of your sales funnel, and how are you going to connect to them? So what we do at Keystone Click is we kind of put together like a perfect audience, right? This is just an example of something we've done before. What channel is your audience on? And we actually, our previous webinar was all about the different channels. So if you are interested in that, at the end, we'll have more information about how you can view previous webinars. But what channel are you going to reach them? And like, where do they exist, right? So I like to think of it as you go get coffee in a coffee shop, right? You don't go get coffee at a hardware store. You need to be reaching those people where they are. So we put together a fun little consumer journey that I'm going to try to go pretty quickly through. So this is Sarah. It's just an example for Keystone Click. Keystone Click has identified Sarah as our target audience. She's mid-30s to 40s and works at a business. And she's like the only person there that wears their marketing hat. She's like one of 3 people max in their marketing department, right? And Sarah is interested in learning about how to do keyword research because she knows it's really important and her business hasn't been ranking high on Google. And since she's, you know, the marketing department, she needs to figure out how they can rank higher. So like anyone else on this entire blue marble, she goes to Google, right? Everyone loves Google. And she types in, how do I do keyword research? And would you look at that, when Sarah does that query about how do I do keyword research, a Keystone Click blog titled "Getting Started with Keyword Research" shows up. And it's the first one, so she clicks on it. She's like, this is going to have awesome information in it. And of course it does. So she reads through the entire blog, and she's starting to feel confident that she knows how to get started doing keyword research for her business and start moving up those ranks in Google, right? However, at the end of the blog, she kind of notices that there's a way to contact Keystone Click. Those are called calls to action. We will get to those at the end of this presentation, but they're very important. So she sees that calls to action, and it's, contact us if you need more information or if you need help with your keyword research, right? And so she does. She realizes like keyword research is a massive undertaking and takes a lot of effort. And since she's one of maybe 3 people max in her marketing department, she fills out that contact form on our website, which then goes into the inbox of our fabulous director of client experience, Will Jurgensen. Some of you may have had the pleasure of meeting him. If not, I highly suggest giving him a call. He is a great conversationalist, and we'll talk about literally anything. It doesn't have to be digital marketing related. But anyways, that's besides the point. The contact information that Sarah filled out goes to Will's inbox, and Will gives Sarah a call, and they start chatting about keyword research and all the things that Sarah has questions on and that Keystone Click can do for her. And it turns out that actually Sarah learns that she doesn't have time at all to do this type of stuff for her business, because like I said, she's the only one wearing the marketing hat. However, she knows that it's super important, right? Like, she needs to be ranked high in Google. So over the next week or so, Sarah and Will talk back and forth, and Sarah decides that Keystone Click should handle her company's keyword research and implementing that to their website and their content. And as soon as Keystone Click comes up with the perfect strategy for that, boom, everyone is happy, right? Sarah's company moves up to the first page of Google, all the way above their competitors. She's happy, her boss is ecstatic. And for us, Keystone Click, we made a new partnership, and it is all based on the content that we produced and provided.
Right. So definitely Keegan painted the ideal scenario for a customer journey. One thing that's important to remember, though, is it's not just one piece of content that somebody may interact with or experience. So it's really important to not just think about how any one piece of content will direct those prospects to engaging with you further and becoming leads and even customers, but it's also important to think about all the ways in which you are publishing content or having different touch points with any one person at a given time. So when evaluating the whole of the content that you're putting out on a regular basis, you definitely want to abide by the 70-20-10 rule. That's what we would recommend. So 70% of the time, you want to push out content that provides value in some way. So whether that is thought leadership or expert tips, things like that, you want to really have content that at its core is a great educational tool and is valuable to those prospects. Then 20% of the time you're engaging with other people. So this is where, replying to comments or emails comes into play. You're building that relationship and that rapport with your audience a little bit further. And really, the last part of this is 10%, and 10% of the time is when you're making that sale. So it just goes to show here that even though our webinar is about bringing in new business with your content, the majority of the time, you're just creating and distributing quality content. At the very end is where really you should be focused on making that sale. So you want content that's valuable, but you also really want content that's consistent. Humans, we get in a routine, and we expect things at certain times, especially as you establish and continue to do so over time. So we like to do a monthly content calendar. You can always do, weekly if you've got that much content, or a little bit less, scale it for what you're doing. But it's really important, again, to think about all the different ways in which you're providing content to your audience, and also the specific content that you're providing. So maybe not necessarily repeating yourself every so often, but hitting at different points of your business or reaching different audiences. It's just really important to understand and keep yourself organized. And for consistency's sake, your audience comes to expect that you're sending them an email every Thursday. And so you want to be there and on time. That shows, again, you're structured, organized, and it's better for your business.
Yeah. So I know we kind of flew through that. Feel free again to let us know in the chat if you guys have any questions about that. Especially, the 70-20-10 rule is really important to follow. Finding where your audience is, we can answer some questions about those. And, we're going to talk about consistency throughout this entire presentation. So we're going to get right into the types of content that you should be creating. There are tons and tons of ways in which you can create and distribute your content. We really suggest kind of picking like one or two of these to start, especially if you don't have, a lot of experience in creating content, and really mastering them, right? And then kind of moving that to another one, and, really getting the hang of these. So the first one that we want to start with is a big one, right? And I mean big as in it's important, and it's also kind of a longer form piece, right? We're talking ebooks. So ebooks mean electronic books, if you didn't already know that. They are really important for your strategy because they're longer pieces of content, and we kind of will talk about, like, you can split those longer pieces of content up into smaller pieces of content. They're really specific topics. And the example here we have comes from BrightGauge, and it's an ebook about how to implement an efficient success team. If you're a manager, I highly suggest doing this. One thing you will notice is that in order to get the ebook, you can't just click to download, right? Like, people have to give you a little bit of information in order to get the ebook, because these are chocked full of really good stuff. And it's really specific. So we call this gated content. Somebody has to give us their name and their email in order to get that. And then with that information, we can continue our touch points, sending them emails, directing them, sending them different blogs that we post that they might be interested in, throughout the entire life of the lead. The next type of content is case studies. So these are really, really powerful. They live on your website, but they don't necessarily have to be just website content, right? They can be social media, they can be videos, but the really important piece is that these are evergreen content, right? They can be reused and reformatted, like I said, in all different types of ways. They hit on really big keywords as well. What we like to do at Keystone Click is we show the challenge, the process, the outcome. And this is just an example from our website here. You can go there and take a look at all of our case studies, how we structure it, and structure yours the same if you want. But the thing about this is it's really good for SEO. You are talking directly to the industries and using words that people are searching for. One example for us is, we do website development, right? So the challenge for a company that came to us said our website isn't garnering the traffic that we think it needs or we think that we deserve. So that's the challenge. And then, somebody goes on Google and searches for how do I increase my traffic? And those keywords are spliced throughout our case study. They're also really easy to create. Like I said, you can lay it out as the challenge, the process, the outcome. Another way to think about it is, problem solution. A fun thing about these is that your clients and your customers really like to hear the positives about themselves, right? So you are talking positive about your customers. They really like to be talked about, and it helps get their name out to their potential customers as well. So you can just type something up. I know I do this all the time. I type something up, I send it to a client, I say, hey, we're thinking about adding this case study to our website. Do you have any more input on it? And I always type some really good things about people. And then they usually come back and are like, oh, you forgot that you did this, and we had awesome communication and ideas back and forth. It's just another way to continue that, the inbound methodology, that infinity symbol. So we've got a couple more pieces of content. One of them is newsletters. And newsletters are something that every company should be producing on a regular basis. And I'm going to stress this a couple times throughout this slide, but a regular basis is super important. Consistency, right? We've talked about it before. Newsletters are consistent touches to anyone at all who has interacted with your company, and they act as a reminder of like, hey, we're still here and we'll continue to be here for whatever you need us for and whenever you need us, right? It's that touch point that reminds people that you exist and that you're doing really well and producing awesome stuff. So they can also be used to be like, check out these awesome pieces of work we've been working on. You should also be including your blogs. Any thought leadership you have, you can use curated content from other places as well. Another really awesome thing about newsletters is that pretty much all CRMs allow you to really individualize these. In the top right example there, you can see it's Hey Aaron. So that's actually a newsletter that we had produced, and we sent one to Aaron here. Just to, test it out, right? But you can add people's names in there. I know Lori Hybe, our CEO, is really interested in hockey. So she has a lot of contacts through the hockey world. So sometimes we will email people who are specified in our CRM as interested in hockey, and have some, hockey language in there. So you're really able to customize these and make them individualize them for people to connect and, grab their attention. Before I move on, I need to just say it one more time that these newsletters need to be consistent, right? As time goes on and you start doing these newsletters, you kind of amass a sort of fan base, and they expect to get these newsletters at a specific and certain time. So we all know you don't want to let your fans down, so make sure, consistency is key. So another really interesting form of content we have is interviews. And when you think of interviews, you might immediately think of like being interviewed by your local news, Channel 6 station. And it is a little bit like that. But as we move more, into a digital world, start thinking about podcasts, Q&A blogs, and answering questions online. Answering questions online is one that I get a lot of questions about. It's a way to broaden your horizons and broaden your audience. There are sites like Quora.com where people just go and ask questions. I know in the past that I've been on Quora and helped answer people's digital marketing stuff. And then, that leads them to me, and that leads them to Keystone Click. And, we start moving them down the funnel. A podcast is a really interesting one. If you have a podcast, you can invite prospective consumers or clients on to talk about their specific role in their company or their niche. And then that kind of generates a rapport between you and them. And hopefully that guest will have really enjoyed their time being on your podcast. And then they will share their interview with their audience as well, which again, just it really broadens your audience, right? You're getting an extended reach. You can also turn any of these podcasts into Q&A blogs that you can post on your website. I know Aaron's going to talk about blogs, and we'll get there. but you can use these as other forms of content as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with podcasts too, they really allow you to build your network, as Keegan was saying. So, having guests on, maybe those are prospective customers for you, and having that one-on-one time really encourages them to kind of start through the funnel, but it also just builds your network and referrals to an extent. So it's definitely kind of a great content piece to consider for that goal.
And I do want to add, before Erin gets going on blogs, that there are tons of, if you don't have a podcast, which, I mean, the majority of people don't have podcasts, but new podcasts are starting every day, right? There are websites out there that you can get interviewed on podcasts. You can reach out to people, and that way you can broaden your audience as well. You can get interviewed.
Absolutely. All right, so now we've been teasing blogs just a little bit, but definitely you've probably seen blogs, read them, know them. Maybe you've written a couple in the last little bit, but blogs are definitely a way to establish your brand as an industry expert, really sharing your knowledge on a specific topic. Something to remember is you need to make it easy to read. I know that's really simple, but talking in the same language that you use to converse with somebody really helps people kind of understand, and it also brings that conversational tone in that you'd love to have with them down the line. Mm-hmm. So blogs are also another great evergreen piece where most of the time they live on your website. They're great to be there and answer specific questions, but over time you can reshare them or split them up. That gets into a little bit of what we'll be talking about later on in the series, but definitely evergreen content, super important to have and be able to build off of moving forward. The other great thing about blogs is that you are targeting those key questions and specifically those keywords that Keegan was talking about earlier. So if your blogs do live on your website, you're building your kind of SEO in that way because your keywords are kind of interspersed throughout on any one blog.
Yep. You can think back to our example of Sarah and how she came across our blog previously.
Yeah. So then we get into a fun one, infographics. You can actually make infographics out of your blogs if you want. But infographics are really great because they are visually powerful and they really help your audience understand specific things. So they're eye-catching, but they also, if you're sharing a process or even a lot of data, they're a great visual aid to kind of help your audience understand what you're talking about. And they're also just super cool to look at. And you can kind of break them up too. Yeah, they're so much fun. And I think, oftentimes we forget that a lot of people are visual learners. And so this really helps people just kind of understand kind of your industry knowledge and experience, and maybe something that's very data heavy or process driven. Mm-hmm. And in that way, it's a great piece of content that you can continue to share. And finally, another piece of content that definitely is visually powerful, catches your eye, videos. So attracting your audience with visual storytelling. And especially, with videos, they do extremely well on social. We'll mention that again as we get into distributing your content, but videos really are kind of, a more personal face-to-face interaction if you record yourself. And it's, a lot of times it's easier to understand somebody telling you something through a screen than it is just reading words on a page. So in that way, definitely easier to consume for a lot of your audience. And we'll go through, a couple of quick tips as far as your videos. They want to be short and sweet. If they are longer form based on the content you're doing, maybe that's how you grow your YouTube channel, which could be really important depending on your business. And also just having good lighting, good sound, closed captioning for those that don't use audio. And like I said, again, really you can upload it and share it on a lot of social media channels and it'll get you a lot of engagement. So Keegan,
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm laughing as you're doing this because you're just so much nicer than me. When I explain why clients need to be producing video, this is what I tell them. I say, people inherently are super, super lazy. Okay. And video makes, like Aaron said, makes it so much easier to consume your content rather than reading an entire blog or reading text in a social media. So really video's king. I'm going to say it a couple more times as we go through distributing content, but video is king.
Absolutely. We're getting a couple of questions. Keegan, I don't know if you want to stop now real quick. Somebody asked, do we have any favorite platforms or tools for creating infographics?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I think we would shout out Canva here. It's a free platform. They have some paid stuff, but the free account is great. You can set your dimensions up however big you need it. They have tons of images and free graphics to kind of use and apply and build out whatever process you're trying to explain. And yeah, just great tons of colors and options, and it's a really easy tool, especially if you're less graphically design inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. If nobody else sees it besides the person who answered it, I did type, I believe that is the link to it. It's canva.com, CANVA. If you just Google that, it'll be the first one. I mean, if you don't have it's Canva, CANVA. I'm going to see if I can add it into the chat here. Oh, it looks like Aaron got it.
Beat you to it.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're not into Photoshop and Adobe, like Aaron and I kind of are, then this is a great option for you, and it's completely free. So,
yeah. There was one other question about case studies being just for consulting businesses. And I think, depending on what your kind of business or brand, I think you can adapt case studies to however you want. Maybe you just tell the story of a specific product or, customer experience even. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Keegan.
Yeah, definitely customer experience. A great way to kind of start your case study is by looking at the testimonials that you're getting online, right? You can look at your Google reviews. You can, reach out to those types of people. Facebook also has reviews. I mean, there are tons of, if you're a restaurant, there's Yelp, right? I think that's restaurants, unless it's, I think maybe all stores. But there are tons of places that you can start getting that information from.
Yeah, and it really you're giving that kind of personal touch, and the more people you say I've worked with this person and they had a great experience, that only adds to your credibility. So now we're going to tackle distributing content. In some ways we've shared great content pieces to start out with. Some of them are a little bit bigger, but a lot of times your content will be dictated slightly by the channel that you're sharing it on. So the first one, and a big one, is social media. So obviously, in growing your digital presence, your social media is oftentimes one of the best places to do that. You're continuously pushing your content and finding a new audience through people who share your content, through people who follow you as a page. We definitely recommend, especially for social media, but also just generally in terms of your content, creating that content calendar so you know exactly where you're sharing at what times, and you can kind of balance exactly that. And really the big point here is that each platform is different. We're going to go through kind of just a little bit of how they're unique, but your content should be different too. That's best practice.
Yep. And I just want to kind of, before we start on Twitter, I want to harp on what Aaron was saying about having a content calendar. It really makes your life so much easier. It might seem like a lot of work up front, but as you go into the month or into the week, it really makes it a lot easier because social media can ramp up really, really fast, especially if you are doing, all 4 of these at once. Which, by the way, I'm going to say again, the same thing as content pieces. If you don't have a lot of experience in social media, then, just start with maybe one of them and master that one. And, reach out to Aaron or I if you need help deciding which one you should start on, because that is a really important piece of your strategy as well. Okay, Twitter. So with Twitter, try to keep it short and conversational, okay? Twitter is the mastermind of hashtags. So using hashtags relating to the subject of your tweet or the industry that you're in. It allows your tweet to be seen by anyone who searches that hashtag or who clicks on that hashtag. Hashtags are kind of similar to keyword research in that you need to be using the right hashtag, right? If I'm creating a post, a tweet about keyword research, I should probably have the hashtag keyword research in there. So you really need to know what hashtags to use. You can search through hashtags to find ones that people are tweeting about a lot and have followers. And you can track them across your Explore tab within Twitter. Just kind of a fun fact for you, but this is a statistic from Twitter, but tweets with hashtags statistically have 100% more engagement, compared to tweets with no hashtags at all. So it's recommended that you use 3 hashtags per tweet, and that's actually the maximum of hashtags that you can include in each tweet. So another thing about Twitter is being concise. Like I said, short and conversational. This is the short part, right? You only have 280 characters maximum for a tweet. That doesn't mean that you have to use all 280. It used to be 140. I think that was changed like 3 or 4 years ago, but people have done it before, right? And businesses have been really successful on Twitter. So this means that you really need to be dialed in to what your message is. You need to dial it in to 1 or 2 sentences. And then after that 1 or 2 sentences, we'll talk about this in a couple slides, but you can add a link or, have some language in there about what your audience should do next. Those are called calls to action. We'll get to them in a little bit. The other thing about Twitter, in hand with it being short, it also means that it needs to be conversational. Twitter is all about asking questions, answering people's questions, tweeting polls. Polls are really a great way to get engagement on Twitter. Those really are effective ways in interacting with your audience, and that's what Twitter is all about. So let's move on to Instagram. And Instagram is a really fun one. It is definitely allows you to show your personality and gives your audience some behind the scenes looks. Again, hashtags are really important on Instagram as well, because this is how you gain followers and how people find you, right? You can place up to 30 hashtags on each post. That's a little overkill. The actual statistic behind it is that for businesses, right, you should have 9 hashtags per post. And And then hashtags that contain 2 to 3 words are often more targeted than single word hashtags. So just keep that in mind. The other thing you can do on Instagram is really tell your story. What we tell people who want to do Instagram or are going into Instagram is think about the 5 W's: the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. So those 5 questions, where do you work? When do you work your best? Who inspires you? Those all can drive your content on Instagram. Another fun thing about Instagram is you have the option for Instagram stories. And these are really fun. They can be really quick videos or pictures of behind the scenes looks at your business or your company. Sometimes some fun things to do are just, quick little interviews with employees as they're working. Hey, what are you working on? Get the phone in their face. Try not to bug them too much though. But people really respond to that type of stuff and really enjoy seeing that. Another thing about Instagram is that there are always new and changing trends, and they're constantly blowing up. You see these all the time, right? Trends, memes, challenges. These are all just some ways to show your brand's personality or your business's personality, and really improves your engagement because people are seeing those and people enjoy them. They're trends for a reason, right? So Facebook. Some people will tell you that Facebook is dead. That's completely not true. Don't listen to them at all. Facebook is the #1 most used social media platform. So if you're not on Facebook, you definitely should start a business account on Facebook. But with it being that it is the most used, it's not as easy to grab people's attention on Facebook. You constantly are needing to do something different that connects with people on their level. So videos, this is, again, I said it before, video is king. Video is super, super important on all these platforms. But, if you're going to start with video anywhere, you need to start with it on Facebook. It is the most engaged form of content across all the channels, videos on Facebook. And actually a fun thing to try if you haven't done it yet is Facebook Live. Facebook users are actually 4 times more likely to notice and view a live video compared to a pre-recorded video. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing pre-recorded videos because, like I said before, Aaron said it a little nicer way, but people are lazy, right? You want people to digest your content. Another thing that Facebook needs to do, and I said obviously variety ties into this, is you need to be able to post fun stuff. You need to be entertaining on Facebook because there's so much other stuff, other noise going on Facebook that you need to be the difference there. So driving engagement is really important here. We did, as an example, a mascot madness competition for Keystone Click where we all submitted pictures of our pets, and our Facebook followers voted on which one should be Keystone Click's mascot. We've had other videos on there that have done really well as well. But, personality posts and things that people can connect with and engage with are really important on Facebook. And then finally, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little bit different than the previous 3 in that fun and entertaining posts don't drive quite the same engagement on LinkedIn as they do on, Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn, if you don't know what it is, it's mainly professionals. And as a result of that, they are looking to learn about their industry or a new industry that they're trying to get into, right? That is why you need to be informative on LinkedIn, and you need to provide your industry knowledge. And it's okay to share some of those like trade secrets. Like we all are like protective of our trade secrets, but that's how you start reaching a broader audience on LinkedIn, right? You need to be informative and educational. I think those are the most important things for LinkedIn posting.
Yeah. So that gives you a little overview of social channels. Somebody did ask what app or tool we use to schedule content. And for social media in particular, we like to use Sendable. One of the benefits of Sendable is it allows you to build out an entire queue. So like other evergreen content, your evergreen posts, you can kind of save and keep a history of, and they're already preloaded and ready to go. So that's one benefit for, I'll type both of the tools I'm recommending here, but the other one that I know of is a really common one, Hootsuite, and that one for just a few accounts kind of in the beginning, like you can definitely use to at least schedule your posts ahead of time. So I'll type up both of those in just a moment. But getting on to our website. So definitely your website, we like to think of our website as our 24-hour, 7 days a week salesperson, right? So you may not have your salesperson in every day of the week at all hours, and that's totally understandable. But in place of that, your website can really serve as a way to showcase the best of your brand, your story, your work, your content, and valuable resources that you have to share. So it's definitely a place where you're directing a lot of people to from other types of content, on social, etc. And with that, we'd like to highlight landing pages. So landing pages are specific pages. They don't live, it's not something people can just click to through your website, but it's something that you direct people from, a social media post, etc., where you're talking about a specific offering. The example that we have here is our Guide to Profits. It's an ebook with 42 amazing tips. You can sign up for it if you want to, but
shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But definitely here, for Guide to Profits, when we talk about it on our social media channels and we say, hey, here's one tip if you want to get all 42, join us. The link that we send them to is not just to our homepage. We actually send them to a dedicated page that matches our messaging and really talks about the specific offering and valued piece of content that we have for them and that we're promoting. So it's a way to improve certain social media or other, channel campaigns that you're doing. And it also can help you have a little bit of more lead gen in case, your Guide to Profits is gated content like we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Another big one, email. We talked a little bit about it with newsletters, but really email is a great way to connect with not only current customers and communicate with them, but also prospective customers as well. So for current customers, you're encouraging, brand loyalty and also repeat business, right? You're reiterating and providing more value to people you've helped in the past, and that may encourage them to engage with you again down the line. Another thing that we highlight here with email are drip campaigns, and drip campaigns give your audience exactly what they need. And it's another example of that kind of customer journey we talked about earlier. So drip campaigns are a set number of emails that you schedule out at specific times or based on specific rules that you create. So that way you're providing touch point after touch point after touch point, each time valuable content that's consistent. And it really engages your audience that way. And the last kind of channel distribution method we're going to highlight are organizations and associations. So these are great because they're a unique audience that's very specified. So whether it's an industry group or association or a certain profession or a certain target audience, these are a great place to reach those people if that's who you're trying to target. So obviously in-person meetings, you can't quite crash those and just introduce yourself, but definitely there's a lot happening online, and even in groups communication. They're always looking to promote content that they think is relevant to the rest of their members. So Keegan, I think you have a highlight
added.
added.
Nice little thing in there. A lot of groups, especially professional organizations, have, monthly outreach, monthly newsletters, monthly magazines, and they're constantly looking for content, right? So in this example, I had produced a blog article and we submitted it, and they had it on their front page of this group's magazine. So who's that handsome fellow there in the bottom right corner? It's me, if you can't see and are blind, and if I don't look the same, I don't know.
So finally, as we're going to wrap things up, one thing that we want to talk about is organic versus paid content. So a lot of what we just went through is what we would call organic content, where you're growing your digital presence, really you're increasing your brand awareness, you're hitting that attract and connect part of inbound or that top of the funnel, and you're really building those relationships with your audience and engaging with them. Now, where you're going to differ is with paid content. And paid content can live on a lot of the same channels. Paid content can also be content that you've already shared organically, but you want to push that out to more people and put a little bit of dollars behind it. So definitely with paid content, you can specify your audience that you're trying to reach in building a campaign a lot of times. So if there's a new audience that you're trying to reach, paid content is definitely a great way to do that. And there's two different avenues as far as paid content's concerned. One is just increasing your reach. So you're reaching new people, and again, you're raising brand awareness, but you can also do some paid campaigns that within those campaigns allow you to collect information, and that's what we'd call lead generation campaigns. So you put an ad on Facebook, for example, and they say, sign up now for our free offering. And immediately within Facebook, you can grab their name and their email. And that way you have a lead, and it's time to take them through the rest of your funnel, engage with them more, and hopefully convert them into new business.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up really quick because I want to leave some time for questions. So start putting your questions in the Q&A. I know we only have like 7 minutes left, but finalizing your content strategy, right? Let's wrap up with how you should be closing out your content. And the answer is with calls to action. You need to have strong calls to action. You need to be telling your audience what they need to do next. Your audience just consumed your content. You don't want to leave them hanging and just like have them thinking, what do I do now? You need to send them to a contact form. You need to have them subscribe to your newsletter. You need to have them install your app. All of those are viable options. So strong calls to action at the end of each piece of your content, whether that be in social media, sending them back to your website, or the things that I mentioned before. So what's coming up next? We're still doing the content marketing webinar series, and we're coming down to the end here. You guys are not going to want to be missing these. We've got repurposing content. I know Aaron and I spoke pretty briefly about that, but we're going to be diving into the key to maximizing your reach is actually repurposing your content, slicing and dicing it kind of stuff. We also have a cocktails and case studies webinar where we're going to actually have one of Keystone Click's own clients joining us. And we're going to have I believe we're going to be sending out a cocktail recipe for people to make and enjoy while they listen to our webinar. And then we're going to have an expert panel discussion. And that one, if you haven't signed up for that one yet, go to keystoneclick.com/webinars. It's highlighted right there. And certainly, if none of the other ones sign up for the expert panel discussion, we're bringing in experts from across the industry to talk about content marketing.
And the other thing that we want to plug, we appreciate you guys so much for sticking with us. I hope you learned something that's new and exciting or really helps your business. We are offering a content strategy session with the one, the only Lori Hyvee, our boss and founder and CEO of Keystone Click. She's an amazing, amazing digital marketing expert, extraordinaire, as we say. And this really gives you one-on-one time with her to come up with up to 20 social media post ideas or up to 6 blog post ideas. So if you're just starting out with your content, this gives you a great way to kick things off. And because you've joined us here today, it's only $99 rather than its $250 value. So it's heavily discounted for an amazing experience. We've had a couple of people already sign up and go through it, and they've had a lot to take away from, and they've really enjoyed it. So we definitely recommend that. You can go to keystoneclick.com/content workshop to sign up.
Yeah. And with that, does anybody have any questions for us? Feel free to enter them in the Q&A or in the chat. We will be able to read them in either place.
Yeah.
I see one question here so far. Someone asking about Instagram, the sizes that those pictures should be. So just off the top of my head, Instagram typically likes like vertical images. So we tell people the standard size should be 1080 pixels wide by 1350 pixels high. You can do horizontal as well. You can also do square images. Just always try to keep the width of those images to 1080 pixels.
Yeah. It also looks like we have one more question. What would be the best way to calculate the amount of paid content that I should advertise? This is a great question. We would say definitely if you haven't established organically kind of your channels, do that first. But when you're ready to figure out, how much paid content versus organic that you should do, I'd start out with just a small, low budget, maybe, Facebook in particular will give you options to kind of just boost your post. And then once you want to dip your toe into advertising, start out with 1 or 2 ads, put a couple of dollars behind it, see which one sticks and does well. And from there, just kind of refine your strategy as far as what you're doing.
All right, I see another question about podcasting and podcasting resources, preferred equipment, best practices, ebooks on that. I will actually, if anyone is interested, feel free to email me. My email is on the screen there, keegan.gallup@keystoneclick.com. We actually do have an ebook that talks through that exact answer. For the person that sent the question to me, I will reach out to you and send you that ebook, or at least where to find it. There are specific that we suggest podcasting, like recording tools, video web cameras if you want to do that as well. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head, but I can get you that information, and I will get you that information. Again, feel free to reach out to Aaron or I in our emails. You can also find our emails on our website. It's keystoneclick.com. If you guys have any more specific questions about that.
Awesome. I think we're right at time. So again, any questions you have, please reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and hopefully you don't freeze this weekend.
Stay warm, everybody.